A boy arrives at the office of a billionaire heir, offering his toys in exchange for a day off for his mother. But when the billionaire responds, he leaves both the boy and his mother speechless. The alarm went off at 4:30 a.m., as it always did. The piercing sound cut through the silence of the tiny apartment, echoing against walls that seemed as thin as paper. Marie opened her eyes slowly, every muscle protesting the inevitable movement. Pain, her most loyal companion, began its daily ritual before the first rays of sunlight even appeared. Her fingers found the switch on the small bedside lamp, casting a weak yellow glow that revealed the peeling paint on the cramped walls. The cracked mirror on the wall reflected the image of a woman whom time had treated mercilessly. At 32, the lines on her face told stories she would rather forget. The dark circles beneath her brown eyes stood as silent witnesses to countless sleepless nights and endless days. Her hair, once her pride, was now always tied back in a severe bun, a few grey strands already appearing at her temples, prematurely aging her. The apartment was tiny, but Marie took pride in how impeccably clean she kept it, even on nights when her back screamed for rest. This was her sacred ritual. Every surface had to shine. Every object had its specific place. It wasn't just about organization. This was her way of maintaining dignity, of showing the world that poverty did not equate to sloppiness, of teaching Lucas that self-respect began with caring for the space they called home. In the kitchen, Marie opened the meticulously organized but sadly empty cabinets. Her paycheck wouldn't come for another week, and the options for Lucas's lunchbox were limited. With the care of a jeweler handling precious gems, she separated what remained of the rice and beans. In the back of the fridge, she found a carrot that was still salvageable and 2 slices of chicken she had saved as though they were gold, especially for this day. For herself, there was only a hardened piece of bread and coffee, the same cheap coffee she bought in bulk on paydays. While her hands moved automatically, preparing her son's meal, Marie allowed her thoughts to wander to a past that felt like it belonged to someone else. There was a time she dreamed of a career in business administration. She had even completed 2 semesters at a community college before pregnancy, and abandonment changed her life's direction forever. Now her dreams had become more modest goals, keeping the bills paid, buying school supplies for Lucas without needing installments, watching him grow up healthy and, who knows, maybe have a better life than hers. The smell of coffee filled the air, bringing her back to reality. It was a comforting aroma, perhaps the only luxury she permitted herself. She glanced at the clock on the wall, 5:15 a.m. She still had a few minutes before she needed to wake Lucas. She moved quietly down the hallway, long practiced at walking without making a sound. The faint light coming in through the bare window revealed a scene that every day broke and remade her heart all at once. Lucas slept deeply, his 8 years of age evident in his serene, innocent expression. He was hugging Mr. Buttons, the worn-out teddy bear he'd received on the day he was born, a gift from a kind nurse who realized Marie had nothing to give her newborn. His pajamas, which had fit perfectly just a few months ago, now left his ankles exposed, yet another reminder of the growing list of expenses. The sudden ring of the doorbell startled her, though she had been expecting it. It was Mrs. Clare, punctual as ever. The elderly woman from the 3rd floor was more than just a neighbor or a babysitter. She was a guardian angel who appeared in her life when Marie needed it most. Claire had lost her husband 5 years ago, and her only son lived overseas. Loneliness brought her closer to Marie and Lucas, turning them into an improvised family, bound more by heart than by blood. "Good morning, dear," Claire whispered as she entered, her small, stooped frame still maintaining the dignity of someone who had lived long enough to know what truly mattered in life. Her white hair was neatly styled, as always, and the soft scent of lavender that accompanied her brought a moment of comfort into the apartment. "Is Lucas still asleep?" she asked, already as familiar with the household routine as with her own. Marie nodded, swallowing the lump that formed in her throat every morning when she left her son. "Yes, I'm going to wake him now. There's food in the fridge for his lunch. I set aside his school uniform and—" "Go on, dear," Claire interrupted with that firm kindness that only the truly wise can show. "I know how to care for him. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last." The first bus arrived 10 minutes late, as usual for that route. Marie squeezed in among the other passengers, all sharing the same vacant stare of those who start their day before the sun comes up. The second bus was even worse, packed with workers who, like her, formed the invisible army that kept the city running. Cleaners, doormen, security guards, cooks. Laurent Enterprises rose imposingly against the sky that was just starting to lighten, its mirrored glass windows reflecting the first rays of the day. As always, she entered through the back door, taking the route designated for outsourced employees. In the small, poorly ventilated locker room, Marie changed into the dark blue uniform of the cleaning company, taking care to hide at the back of her locker the bottle of painkillers she carried every day. "Late again, Marie." The sharp voice of Sandra, her supervisor, made her straighten up instantly. Sandra was a middle-aged woman with a perpetually sour expression and unnaturally dyed red hair. She had once been on the cleaning staff herself, promoted to supervisor 3 years ago, and seemed determined to make her subordinates pay for every difficult moment she had experienced. "It's 5:58 a.m., Sandra continued, looking pointedly at the plastic clock on the wall. "Your shift starts at 6 a.m. Sorry, the bus was late and—" "I don't want to hear about the bus," Sandra cut her off. "I want you here on time. The executives start arriving at 7:30, and all the floors need to be spotless. Do you know how many people would love to have your job, Marie?" Marie swallowed the response that burned in her throat. She knew her schedule like the back of her hand. 12 offices, 5 restrooms, 2 break rooms. Every minute was timed. Every task had its own strict deadline. Sandra demanded perfection, and Marie couldn't afford to disappoint. The hours dragged on like ants carrying a weight bigger than themselves. Marie started with the restrooms, which had to be immaculate before the first executives arrived. Then came the offices, each one with its own quirks, each demanding attention to the tiniest detail. It was invisible work. No one noticed when it was done well, but everyone complained at the slightest hint of imperfection. Marie knew every corner of those offices better than their occupants did. She knew which executives spilled coffee on their desks, which were organized, which treated their workspace like an extension of the trash can. She knew their lives from the scraps they left behind: family photos on desks, forgotten birthday gifts, remnants of expensive food in disposable packaging. By 5 p.m., when she finally left the building, Marie could barely feel her legs. The commute home seemed longer each day, every jolt of the bus sending waves of pain through her exhausted body. Her back ached, her knees protested, and a headache was forming behind her eyes. All she wanted was to hug Lucas, take a hot shower, and sleep. When she opened her front door, the smell of homemade soup hit her like an unexpected embrace. Voices came from the kitchen. Claire was at the stove, stirring a steaming pot, while Lucas worked on his homework at the small table. The scene was so domestic and welcoming that Marie felt tears forming in her tired eyes. "Mom!" Lucas abandoned his books and ran to hug her. Marie ignored the pain coursing through her body to lift her son in her arms. For a few seconds, the exhaustion of the entire world was worth it. Lucas's smile, the warmth of his embrace, the smell of cheap shampoo in his hair. These were the moments that kept her going. "Marie, sit down," Claire ordered, already placing a bowl of steaming soup in front of her. "You're killing yourself bit by bit, you know." Marie tried to smile, but the tears came without permission. The soup was delicious, the kind of homemade meal she rarely had time or energy to prepare. "I have no choice, Claire." "Your back won't hold up at this pace," the older woman continued, her voice laced with both concern and affection. "You need to take care of yourself. Think about Lucas. He needs you whole, not in pieces." Her words struck Marie like a punch in the stomach. "I can't lose this job," she whispered, tears now streaming freely down her face. "It's all we have." Claire sighed heavily, placing a wrinkled hand over Marie's. "Marie, I need to tell you something. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I can't stay with Lucas." Panic was immediate and overwhelming. Marie felt the air leave her lungs, her mind spinning in search of solutions that didn't exist. She had no family in the city, no one else she could trust to help, no money for a babysitter. Taking a day off work was unthinkable. Sandra would never allow it. and losing this job would mean the end of everything. Unbeknownst to Marie, Lucas was hidden in the dark hallway, listening to every word. He clutched his teddy bear tight, feeling the weight of the adult's worries on his small shoulders. He was too young to fully understand the situation, but old enough to recognize the fear in his mother's voice and the concern in Claire's words. He slipped back into his room silently, his bare feet making no sound on the cold floor. He lay on his narrow bed, still hugging Mr. Buttons, his only confidant on nights when the adult world felt too big and frightening. Through the thin wall, he could still hear the murmurs in the kitchen. His mother was crying again, a sound he had learned to recognize even when she tried to hide it. In the kitchen, Marie finally composed herself enough to finish her soup, now lukewarm. Claire stayed by her side, offering understanding in her silence. The clock on the wall read 7:30 p.m. Time to start the evening routine, get Lucas ready for bed, organize everything for the next day. "I'll figure something out," Marie said, more to herself than to Claire. "I always do." Claire squeezed her hand one last time before getting up to leave. "I know you will, dear, you always do. But for how long?" The question lingered in the air even after Claire left. Marie remained seated a few more minutes, letting the silence of the apartment envelop her. With a deep sigh, she got up to start her nighttime tasks. There were dishes to wash, a uniform to prepare, a lunchbox to pack. Life didn't stop just because she was exhausted. When she finally finished everything, Marie dragged herself to Lucas's room, needing to see him one more time before going to bed. He was fast asleep, Mr. Buttons clutched tight in his arms, a lock of hair falling over his eyes. Carefully, so as not to wake him, Marie adjusted his blanket and placed a gentle kiss on his forehead. "Mommy loves you so much," she whispered, knowing he couldn't hear. More than anything in this world. In her own room, Marie didn't bother turning on the light. She stripped off her uniform, which smelled of cleaning chemicals, and put on her most comfortable nightgown. She lay down carefully, trying to find a position that wouldn't make her back hurt as much. Marie discovered every day that the weight of love did not just lie in the sacrifices she made, but also in the worried eyes of her son, who understood far more than any child should. It was a weight she carried alone, one that bent but did not break her, that exhausted her but also kept her going. And so another day ended, with mother and son separated by a thin wall but united by the same fear of tomorrow, each carrying their own version of the weight of love. Outside, the city was beginning to fall asleep, indifferent to the small battles fought inside that modest apartment, where two souls struggled not just to survive, but to keep alive the hope of better days. The alarm sounded at 4:30 a.m. as usual, but Marie was already awake. Her eyes were fixed on the flaking ceiling, having closed only for a few minutes throughout the night. Anxiety gnawed at her stomach, tightening a knot with each passing minute. Today would be different. Today she had no choice. Moving on autopilot, Marie got up, her body protesting every motion. The aches, her constant companions, felt especially intense this morning. Fueled by stress and a sleepless night, she went to the bathroom, avoiding the mirror. She didn't need a reflection to confirm that her dark circles were deeper, her worry lines more pronounced. In the kitchen, Marie opened the almost empty fridge, her eyes searching the shelves for something special. Today, Lucas's lunchbox had to be different. It had to serve as an apology, a silent promise that everything would be all right. With care, she separated the last pieces of chicken, the remaining rice, and the leftover vegetables from the week. As she prepared the meal, her hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm she tried to project in her expression. The clock read 5:15 a.m. when Marie stepped into Lucas's room. He was sleeping soundly, hugging Mr. Buttons, blissfully unaware of the storm raging in his mother's mind. For a moment, Marie hesitated, her hand hovering over her son's shoulder. She wanted to protect him, keep him in the world of dreams where everything was possible and free of worries. But reality was relentless, and time was short. "Lucas, my love," she called softly, gently running her fingers through his hair. "Time to wake up." His eyes opened slowly, confused by the early wake-up call. "Mom, it's still dark." "I know, sweetheart." Marie forced a smile, trying to mask the worry in her voice. "Today's going to be a special day. You're coming to work with Mom." The news made Lucas sit up in bed, suddenly wide awake. His eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I get to see where you work," Marie nodded, helping him to his feet. "Yes, but it'll be different from what you imagine. We have to follow some very important rules." As she helped Lucas dress in his school uniform, Marie carefully explained the situation, choosing her words. She talked about the importance of silence, obedience, and staying hidden. Each word weighed on her heart, reminding her how much she was risking and how much they could lose if something went wrong. Breakfast was quick and quiet. Lucas, usually chatty in the mornings, seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. He ate his toast methodically, his eyes flicking between his plate and his mother's tense face. At 5:45 a.m., they left the apartment. The hallway was silent. Other doors still closed, their inhabitants unlikely to stir for another hour or two. Marie held Lucas's hand firmly, as though afraid he might vanish if she let go. The bus stop was almost empty at that hour, with only a few sleepy workers waiting, each lost in their own worries. When the bus arrived, Marie and Lucas took seats in the back, away from curious eyes. During the ride, Marie continued instructing Lucas in a hushed, urgent tone. "Remember, my love, you have to be very quiet. No noise, no leaving the spot where I put you. It's like a game of hide and seek, but much, much more important." Lucas nodded at every instruction, his wide, serious eyes locked on his mother's face. He might not fully grasp the situation, but he understood the fear in Marie's voice and the tension in her posture. "I promise, Mom, I'll be as quiet as a mouse." They arrived at Laurent Enterprises half an hour earlier than Marie's usual time. The imposing building looked even more intimidating in the dim morning light. Marie quickly guided Lucas through the service entrance, her eyes darting around for any sign that they'd been noticed. The basement was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors and identical doors. Marie knew every corner, every hiding spot. She led Lucas to a small break room, rarely used by the cleaning staff who hardly had time to catch their breath, much less rest. "Here, my love," Marie said, opening the door to the tiny room. The space was cramped, containing only a worn-out sofa and a low table. The grey walls and lack of windows made it feel oppressive. "You're going to stay here today." Lucas looked around, his eyes adjusting to the gloom. Marie could see fear forming in his expression, the reality of the situation sinking in. Quickly, she knelt in front of him, taking his small hands in hers. "I know it looks scary, but it's going to be okay," she assured him, her voice trembling slightly. "I'll come back to check on you whenever I can. You have your toys in your backpack, and I brought your favorite food." With quick, efficient moves, Marie improvised a bed on the sofa, using spare cleaning blankets she found in a nearby cabinet. She arranged the few toys Lucas had brought, some toy cars, a coloring book, and, of course, his inseparable Mr. Buttons. "Remember, Lucas, it's very important that you stay quiet. No matter what you hear out there, you can't leave this room. Understand?" Lucas nodded solemnly, clutching Mr. Buttons to his chest. "I understand, Mum. I'll be the quietest boy in the world." Marie kissed her son's forehead, fighting back the tears threatening to fall. "You're the bravest boy in the world. Mommy loves you so much." With one last look at Lucas, Marie closed the door to the room, feeling her heart break a little more with each step she took away from him. Marie's workday began as usual, but every move she made was accompanied by growing anxiety. As she cleaned the offices, her thoughts remained fixed on Lucas, picturing him alone in that dark room. Every sound made her jump, fearing someone had discovered her secret. In the basement, Lucas tried to be brave. The darkness of the room, broken only by the faint light beneath the door, was frightening. The building's noises, distant footsteps, the hum of machinery, muffled voices seemed amplified in the oppressive silence. He played quietly with his toy cars, inventing stories in his mind to pass the time. Mr. Button stayed by his side, a comforting presence in the midst of the strangeness. Occasionally, Lucas picked up his coloring book, but the dim light made it hard to see the outlines properly. Time dragged. Lucas ate the lunch his mother had prepared, guessing it was around noon, savoring every bit of the chicken she'd made so carefully. The food offered a small comfort, a reminder of Marie's love and care. Suddenly, Footsteps in the hallway made Lucas freeze. They were heavy, unfamiliar, drawing dangerously close to his door. The boy clutched Mr. Buttons tightly, his heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. The footsteps stopped right outside. Lucas held his breath, remembering his promise to stay absolutely quiet. For a moment that felt like an eternity. Nothing happened. Then, as abruptly as they had come, the footsteps moved away. Lucas exhaled, tears silently rolling down his cheeks. In that moment, more than ever, he wished for his mother. Marie, for her part, was enduring her own torment upstairs. Each minute away from Lucas was torture. She moved through her tasks like an automaton, her body performing the familiar motions while her mind stayed in the basement with her son. During her rare breaks, Marie dashed down to the basement, her heart in her throat each time she neared the door to Lucas's hiding place. She opened it carefully, dreading what she might find, only to be greeted by her son's relieved smile. "Everything okay, my love?" she would whisper, hugging Lucas briefly. "Are you being brave?" Lucas always nodded, trying to appear strong for his mother. "Yes, Mom, I'm staying quiet. Mr. Buttons is helping me." These moments were precious but precariously short. Marie barely had time to check on Lucas, give him a quick kiss, then hurry back to work. Each separation was painful, leaving them both with an ache in their chests. On one of these rushed visits, Marie failed to notice that the door hadn't closed completely when she left. Lucas, curious and tired of the darkness, inched closer to the crack, his eyes adjusting to the corridor's light. That was when he saw something he would never forget. His mother, standing in the corridor, pulled a pill bottle from her pocket. With trembling hands, she swallowed 2 pills, her face contorted in pain. Lucas watched, his heart heavy, as Marie leaned against the wall for a moment, breathing deeply before returning to work. The scene repeated a few times during the day. Now alert to the door's gap, Lucas observed his mother whenever he could. He saw her grimacing as she wrung out cloths, how she massaged her back when she thought no one was looking, the utter exhaustion evident in her every movement. He remembered the conversation he'd overheard the night before. Claire's words echoed in his mind. "Your back won't hold up at this pace. You need to think about Lucas." Guilt began to gnaw at the boy. It was because of him that his mother worked so hard, hurt so much. It was for him that she was risking everything today, hiding him at her workplace. Seated on his makeshift sofa bed, Lucas looked at his backpack. Besides the few toys and the coloring book, there was something else his mom didn't know he had brought. Slowly, as if someone might see him, Lucas unzipped the side pocket and took out his greatest treasure, a small wooden box where he kept his savings. It was just a few coins and some crumpled bills, earned from small errands for neighbors or occasional gifts. Lucas had always saved this money, dreaming of buying a special toy, a video game he saw in store windows. But now, looking at those wrinkled bills, an idea began to form in his mind. His mother needed help. She needed rest, needed to take care of herself. What if he could do something about it? Lucas looked at Mr. Buttons as though seeking confirmation. The teddy bear, with its worn button eyes, seemed to silently approve. With surprising resolve for someone so young, Lucas made up his mind. He was going to help his mother no matter the cost. He had no idea how, but he was certain he'd find a way. After all, wasn't that what the heroes in his stories did? Find solutions when everything seemed lost? Carefully, Lucas put the little box back into his backpack, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. He knew he was about to break his promise to stay quiet and hidden. But some promises, he thought, had to be broken for a greater good. Taking one last look at the crack in the door, Lucas began to plan. He would wait for the right moment, when the hallway was empty. Then he would do something to help his mom, to make her smile again, to erase that pained expression from her face. Meanwhile, upstairs, Marie continued her grueling routine, oblivious to the plans forming in her son's mind. Each movement was a battle against pain and fatigue, each minute a countdown to the moment she could collect Lucas and head back to the safety of their small apartment. The day dragged on, each hour feeling longer than the last. Marie moved between floors like a ghost, completing her tasks mechanically, while her mind remained constantly split between worry over Lucas and fear of being caught. By mid-afternoon, Marie's anxiety was almost unbearable. So little time remained until the end of her shift, just a few more hours, and she could pick up Lucas and go home, leaving this day of dread and uncertainty behind. Down in the basement, Lucas waited, his small mind racing as he plotted and replotted. He knew that what he was about to do was risky, that it might cause his mom more trouble. But in his heart, he felt it was the right thing. Wasn't that what heroes did? Risk everything to save the ones they loved? With the innocence and courage only a child could have, Lucas prepared himself for his mission. A mission born of love and concern for his mother. One he didn't fully know how to carry out, but was determined to see through. The clock on the wall read 4:30 p.m. Lucas knew his mother's shift would end soon. It was now or never. Carefully, he packed Mr. Buttons into his backpack, alongside his other toys and his precious box of savings. He took a deep breath, remembering the stories of bravery his mother used to read to him at bedtime. With silent steps, Lucas approached the door. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure someone outside could hear it. He pressed his ear to the crack, listening for any sound in the hallway. Silence. This was his chance. Slowly, with utmost care, Lucas opened the door. The corridor was empty, lit only by emergency lights. He looked both ways, recalling the path his mother had taken earlier. To the right lay the elevator, to the left the stairs. With his backpack firmly on his shoulders, Lucas took his first steps out of the room that had been his hiding place all day. Each step was a mix of fear and determination. He had no idea where he was really going or what he'd do when he got there, but he knew he had to try for his mom. As Lucas embarked on his journey through the corridors of Laurent Enterprises, Marie continued her work upstairs, completely unaware of the adventure her son was beginning. Two souls linked by love, separated by floors of concrete and glass, both driven by the desire to protect one another, their actions soon to change their lives forever. And so, with the heart of a child determined to make a difference and a mother's unconditional love as his compass, Lucas took his first step into the unknown, leaving the safety of his hiding place to explore a world of possibilities and dangers his young mind could barely comprehend. Lucas stood in the corridor, ready for his unlikely mission, while Marie, unaware of her son's plans, continued her daily struggle upstairs. The fate of both, hanging on a fragile thread of hope and fear, awaited the events to come that promised to change their lives forever. Lucas remained still in the ground floor corridor, his small 5-year-old frame pressed against the cold wall. His heart beat so loudly he feared the sound might echo. Minutes crawled by as he waited, listening for any sign of someone approaching. The boy looked both ways, his wide, frightened eyes scanning the area. On his right, he saw the elevator his mother used every day. On his left stretched a long corridor leading to unknown parts of the building. Lucas knew he had to decide quickly. Hesitantly, he stepped away from the wall and moved toward the elevator. His backpack, filled with toys and laden with his hopes, felt enormous on his small shoulders. Each step was a blend of dread and determination. When he reached the elevator doors, Lucas realized a new problem. He could barely reach the buttons. Standing on tiptoe, stretching his arm as far as possible, he managed to press the call button. The gentle hum of the elevator in motion made his heart pound even faster. The doors opened with a soft ding, revealing a spacious, elegant interior, worlds apart from the worn-down elevator in his apartment building. Lucas hesitated before stepping inside, gripping the backpack strap as though it were a lifeline. The interior was intimidating, with mirrored walls that reflected his small and frightened image. Lucas stood in a corner, trying to make himself as small as possible. His tiny finger hovered over the panel of buttons, unsure which one to press. He knew he had to go to the top floor, where the important people worked. But there were so many buttons. Before he could decide, voices approached the elevator. Lucas panicked, shrinking further into his corner. A group of employees entered, immersed in animated conversation about some project. No one seemed to notice the small boy in the corner, dressed in a school uniform with a worn backpack. One of the employees pressed the button for the top floor, to Lucas's relief. The elevator began its ascent, stopping occasionally to let passengers on and off. Lucas remained in his corner, practically invisible among the adults' legs. Each time the doors opened, he squeezed his eyes shut, dreading the sight of his worried mother's face or a stern security guard. The ride felt endless to the 5-year-old. He counted floors in his head as his mom had taught him, but quickly lost track. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the elevator reached the top floor. The doors opened onto a silent, luxurious corridor, completely different from the lower floors Lucas sometimes saw when he rarely accompanied his mother to work. The floor was covered in plush carpet that muffled footsteps. The walls were adorned with imposing paintings and golden nameplates. Lucas took a hesitant step out of the elevator, his eyes wide with both wonder and fear. A golden plaque on the wall caught his attention. Executive Offices. Lucas couldn't read very well yet, but he recognized some letters. Step by step, he moved down the corridor, passing several closed doors, each bearing a nameplate he couldn't decipher. At the end of the corridor, a wider space opened up, dominated by an imposing desk. The secretary, however, was not at her post. Lucas looked around, confused, then noticed a small sign on the desk. On break. Back in 15 minutes. He couldn't read the words, but guessed the person who should be there was away. Beyond the secretary's desk, a pair of tall wooden doors stood out. A shiny plaque read, Thomas Laurent, President. Lucas instinctively sensed this was where he needed to go. With his heart in his throat, he approached the doors. He could hear muffled voices on the other side. A meeting, perhaps. His little hand trembled as he reached for the doorknob. For a moment, his courage faltered. What if he was making a terrible mistake? What if this only made things worse for his mother? Then, like a flash, he remembered Marie swallowing pills in secret. The nights he heard her quietly crying. No, he couldn't give up now. With determination surprising for such a small child, Lucas turned the handle and pushed the door open. The scene that revealed itself was intimidating. A large conference table took up most of the room, surrounded by men in expensive suits. At the head of the table, a middle-aged man with graying hair and piercing eyes stopped speaking mid-sentence, his gaze locking on the small intruder. For a moment, silence reigned. Lucas felt every eye on him, a mix of surprise and confusion on the executives' faces. His legs trembled so badly he thought he might collapse. It was Thomas Laurent who finally broke the silence. "Well, it seems we have an unexpected visitor," he said, his voice tinged with intrigue and amusement. He rose from his chair, his eyes never leaving Lucas. "To what do we owe the honor, young man?" Lucas swallowed hard, his throat suddenly too dry to speak. With shaking hands, he opened his backpack. The executives looked on, perplexed, as the boy began to remove his toys, one by one, placing them carefully on the conference table. First came Mr. Buttons, the threadbare teddy bear that was his most faithful companion. Next, a few toy cars, dented but still shiny, a small storybook with yellowed pages from frequent use, and finally, the small plastic box containing his savings, coins and crumpled bills. Thomas Laurent watched in silence, his expression shifting from amusement to curiosity, and then to growing concern as he registered the seriousness in the boy's face. "Sir," Lucas finally found his voice, though it was scarcely more than a whisper. I'm here to make a deal." The executives exchanged confused glances, but Thomas gestured for them to remain silent. He approached Lucas, kneeling to meet the boy's eye level. "What kind of deal, my young friend?" he asked gently. Lucas took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. "I want to trade all of this," he said, gesturing to his toys and the box of money, "for a day off for my mom." The room fell into absolute silence. Thomas blinked, clearly caught off guard by the statement. "Your mom?" he asked kindly. Lucas nodded, tears beginning to pool in his eyes. "She works here, she cleans the offices, but she's always tired, always in pain. I saw her taking medicine in secret today, making faces when she wrings the cloths. She needs to rest, sir. Please." Thomas's expression changed, a shadow of worry crossing his face. He looked at the toys spread on the table, treasures of a child offered in a desperate act of love. "What's your mom's name, son?" Thomas asked, his voice gentle but firm. "Marie," Lucas answered, a tear rolling down his cheek. "Marie Dubois." Thomas stood abruptly, turning to one of the executives. "Get HR in here immediately. I want all the information they have on Marie Dubois from the cleaning staff." As the executive hurried out to fulfill the request, Thomas turned back to Lucas. "You were very brave to come here, Lucas. But your mum must be worried sick. Let's go find her, okay?" Lucas nodded, relieved he wasn't in trouble, but still apprehensive about what would happen next. Thomas turned to the other executives in the room. "Gentlemen, I'm afraid we'll have to postpone the rest of our meeting. Please excuse us." As the executives left in silence, casting curious looks at Lucas, Thomas indicated a chair by the table. "Why don't you sit down, Lucas? We can talk a bit more about your mom while we wait for the HR information." Lucas climbed onto the chair, his legs dangling without reaching the floor. Thomas sat beside him, his kind gaze focused on the boy. "Lucas, can you tell me more about your mom? What is her day like here at work?" The boy hesitated for a moment, but then the words came tumbling out. He spoke of how Marie woke up very early every day, how she always seemed exhausted, how sometimes he heard her crying at night. He mentioned the pills she took in secret, the pain-filled faces she made when she thought no one was watching. Thomas listened intently, his own expression turning more concerned with every detail. He asked gentle questions, encouraging Lucas to share more. As the story unfolded, it became clear that Marie's situation was far more serious than anyone had realized. While they talked, the executive returned with a folder. Thomas opened it, skimming the pages. "Lucas," he said finally, looking at the boy over the top of the documents, "you've done something very important today. Your mother is a very dedicated employee, but she seems to be going through a lot without telling anyone." Lucas nodded, silent tears trailing down his cheeks. "I just wanted to help," he whispered. Thomas placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "And you have helped, Lucas. You've helped a great deal. Now, we'll do everything we can to take care of your mom, okay?" At that moment, noise from outside the room indicated a commotion. The door opened abruptly, and a security guard stepped in, his face showing professional concern. "Mr. Laurent, sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. One of the cleaning staff is desperately searching for her son. The cameras show her running through every floor in a panic." Thomas nodded gravely. "That's Lucas's mother. Please, bring Marie Dubois here immediately." The guard rushed out, leaving the room in tense silence. Lucas, suddenly aware of the gravity of what he had done, began to tremble slightly. Thomas, noticing the boy's fear, knelt in front of him. "It's all right, Lucas. You're not in trouble. In fact, you did something very important today. Your mom will be worried, yes, but we'll explain everything to her, and we'll help her, okay?" Lucas nodded, clutching Mr. Buttons to his chest. "You promise you'll help my mom?" Thomas smiled kindly. "I promise, Lucas, we'll do everything we can." The next few minutes felt endless. Lucas sat there, swinging his legs nervously, while Thomas paced the room, occasionally glancing at the door. The only sounds were the ticking of the wall clock and muffled voices from the corridor. Finally, hurried footsteps echoed outside. Lucas sat up straighter, his eyes fixed on the door. Thomas stopped pacing and stood beside the boy. The door handle turned, and for a moment time seemed frozen. Lucas held his breath, his small heart hammering so loudly he was sure everyone in the room could hear. The door to Thomas Laurent's office burst open, revealing a breathless, distraught Marie. Her eyes, wide with panic, swept the room until they landed on Lucas. For a moment, she stood paralyzed, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Lucas!" she finally cried, her voice a mixture of relief and anguish. Marie rushed to her son, dropping to her knees and enveloping him in a desperate hug. "Oh my God, Lucas, are you okay? What happened?" "Hey, what? How did you get here?" As she spoke, Marie frantically examined the boy for any sign of injury or distress. Lucas, for his part, looked torn between relief at seeing his mother and fear about the consequences of his actions. "Mom, I just wanted to help, he murmured, tears forming in his eyes. Only then did Marie seem to realize where she was and notice Thomas Laurent's presence. Her face went pale, and she stood up, pulling Lucas behind her in a protective gesture. Mr. Laurent, I'm so sorry, she stammered, fear evident in her voice. Please, I can explain. I don't know how Lucas got here, but I promise it'll never happen again. Please don't fire me. I need this job. Thomas raised a hand, gently interrupting her desperate flow of words. His expression was serious, but there was kindness in his eyes that contrasted sharply with the stern image most employees had of him. Ms. Dubois, please, calm down, he said softly. No one said anything about firing you. In fact, we have a lot to talk about. Marie blinked in confusion, her gaze shifting between Thomas and Lucas. The tension in her shoulders was palpable, as though she were bracing for the worst. Thomas turned to the security guard still standing by the door. Please ensure we're not interrupted. Inform my secretary to cancel my afternoon appointments. When the guard left, closing the door behind him, Thomas motioned to the chairs in front of his desk. Please, have a seat, both of you. Marie hesitated before guiding Lucas to one of the chairs. She took the other, her back rigid and her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Lucas glanced nervously from his mother to Thomas, clearly worried about what would happen next. Thomas sat behind his desk, his eyes on Marie. Miss Dubois, your son did something extraordinary today. He came up here willing to give away all his toys to request a single day off for you. Marie looked at Lucas, shocked. Oh, my love, she whispered, tears forming in her eyes once more. He told me about your pain, about the pills you take in secret, Thomas continued. Marie, why didn't you ever say anything? Why didn't you ask for help? Marie lowered her eyes, shame and fear evident in her posture. I couldn't risk losing this job, sir. Lucas is all I have, and I have to take care of him. Thomas nodded slowly, his expression softening. I understand, but I'd like to hear the whole story, Marie, without fear, without leaving anything out. Can you tell us how you ended up in this situation? Marie took a deep breath, briefly glancing at Lucas before she began. Her voice was low at first, heavy with emotion, but it grew steadier as her story unfolded. She spoke about how she became pregnant at 19 while still a college student, how Lucas's father disappeared upon hearing the news, leaving her alone, how her conservative parents, disappointed, kicked her out of their home. Suddenly, Marie found herself with no family, no support, and a baby on the way. I had to drop out of college, she continued, her voice trembling. I got a job as a supermarket cashier, but it barely covered the rent for a tiny room. When Lucas was born, I thought I wouldn't make it. But looking at him, I knew I had to be strong, that I had to make it work somehow. Marie talked about the following years, a constant struggle to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. She took any job she could find, often working double shifts while leaving Lucas with neighbors or community childcare. When I got this job at Laurent Enterprises, it felt like a miracle, she said, a small, tired smile forming on her lips. The pay was better. There were benefits. For the first time, I felt like I might give Lucas a slightly better life. Thomas listened attentively, his face a mask of concentration. He watched not just her words, but her body language, the nuances of her voice. He saw the deep exhaustion in her eyes, the dark circles testifying to nights spent awake. He noticed her hands, calloused and rough from years of manual labor. But the work is hard, he commented gently, and it's wearing you down. Marie nodded slowly. It is, but I can't complain. Many people don't even have a job, and Lucas, he deserves the best I can give him. Thomas leaned forward, his gaze steady on Marie's. Marie, above all else, you need to rest. Marie blinked, surprised by his blunt statement. Rest? But It's not a request, Thomas interrupted kindly. I'm giving you a paid week off, effective immediately. Marie's mouth fell open, clearly shocked by the offer. A week? Paid? But why? Thomas smiled, a genuine expression that softened the lines of his face. Because you deserve it, Marie. And because I have a proposal for you when you come back, but I need you rested and ready for a change." "A proposal," Marie repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Thomas nodded. "Yes. I'm thinking of another position for you here at the company. Something that makes better use of your skills and determination. But we'll discuss that once you return, all right?" Marie still seemed stunned, unable to fully process what she was hearing. Noting her confusion, Thomas shared something personal. "You know, Marie, my own mother was a cleaner for many years," he said, his gaze distant for a moment. "I saw firsthand how hard she worked, how much she sacrificed for me and my siblings. I promised myself that one day, if I had the chance, I'd do something to help hard-working mothers like her." He turned his eyes back to Marie and Lucas. "And as for you, young Lucas," he said with a smile, "how about spending the week in our corporate daycare center? That way, your mom can really rest knowing you're safe." Lucas glanced at his mother, his eyes shining with excitement and uncertainty. Marie, for her part, looked on the verge of tears. "Mr. Laurent, I don't know what to say," she stammered, her voice thick with emotion. Thomas smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything, Marie. Just accept this opportunity. Rest, take care of yourself, spend time with your son. When you return, we'll talk about the future." Marie nodded, silent tears running down her cheeks. She hugged Lucas, who began crying too, a mixture of relief and emotion flooding them both. Thomas watched the scene for a moment before grabbing his planner. "I'll schedule a meeting for a week from now, at 10 a.m. Does that work for you, Marie?" Marie agreed, still at a loss for words. Thomas smiled, standing up and walking to the door. "Well, I think we've had enough excitement for one day," he said softly. "Why don't the two of you go home now? Rest, and remember, Marie, you're not alone anymore." Marie got to her feet, holding Lucas's hand tightly. She looked at Thomas, her eyes brimming with gratitude. "Thank you," she finally managed, her voice barely a whisper. Thomas opened the door, guiding them out. "See you next week, Marie. Lucas, take good care of your mum, okay?" Lucas nodded solemnly, his small hand gripping his mother's. As they left the office, Thomas watched them go, a gentle smile on his face. When the door closed behind them, Thomas returned to his desk, thoughtful. He glanced at the photo of his mother that he kept nearby, smiling softly. "I hope you're proud, Mom," he murmured. "I'm trying to keep my promise." With a satisfied sigh, Thomas turned his attention back to the work awaiting him. The day had taken an unexpected turn, but he felt that something important had begun. A shift he hoped would make a difference not just in Marie and Lucas's lives, but in many others as well. Meanwhile, in the elevator heading back down, Marie held Lucas close, both of them emotionally and physically exhausted. The small apartment that once felt cramped and stifling now seemed like a haven of security and comfort. "Mom," Lucas whispered, "you don't have to worry anymore. I'll always take care of you." Marie kissed the top of her son's head, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "My little hero," she murmured, "we'll take care of each other. Always." The elevator doors opened, and mother and son stepped into the daylight, ready to face whatever the future held. Lucas's journey to the top floor had ended, but a new journey, a journey of hope and possibilities, was just beginning for the Dubois family. As they walked to the bus stop, Marie allowed herself, for the first time in a long while, to dream of a better future. She didn't know exactly what Thomas Laurent had in mind, but she sensed that a door had opened, an opportunity that could change their lives. "Lucas," she said softly as they waited for the bus, "what do you say we spend this week doing fun things together?" Lucas's eyes lit up. "Can we go to the park and maybe the library?" Marie smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "Yes, my love. We can do all that and more." When the bus arrived, they boarded with a sense of lightness they hadn't felt in a long time. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, Marie felt she had reason to be optimistic. As the bus pulled away from Laurent Enterprises, Marie glanced out the window at the towering building. Silently, she made a promise to herself. No matter what happened, she would make the most of this opportunity. For Lucas, for herself, and for the trust Thomas Laurent had placed in her. The afternoon sun bathed the city in a golden light, seeming to symbolize the start of a new era for Marie and Lucas, an era of possibilities, hope, and perhaps, finally, a little peace. Marie and Lucas arrived home late that extraordinary afternoon, both drained emotionally and physically. The tiny apartment, which once felt so constricting, now seemed to exude warmth and safety. "Let's have a bath and rest a bit, sweetheart," Marie said gently to Lucas, who nodded sleepily. After a simple dinner and a warm bath, Marie tucked Lucas into bed. He fell asleep almost instantly, still clutching Mr. Buttons. Marie stood watching him for a few minutes, her heart overflowing with love and a newfound sense of hope. Finally, allowing herself to relax for the first time in years, Marie lay down in her own bed. The exhaustion of countless sleepless nights and relentless days finally caught up with her. Her eyes closed, and she slipped into a deep, restorative sleep. When Marie finally woke up, the late afternoon sun was filtering through the thin curtains. Disoriented, she looked at the clock, shocked to see she had slept almost 24 hours straight. Panicking, she leapt up, only to find Lucas calmly watching cartoons in the living room, munching on a sandwich. "Mommy!" Lucas exclaimed brightly when he saw her. "You slept a lot. I made a sandwich all by myself." Marie hugged her son, a mixture of relief and guilt flooding her. "I'm sorry, my love. Mommy was really tired." "It's okay, Mom," Lucas smiled. "Mr. Laurent said you needed to rest. Remember?" Lucas's words brought back memories of the previous day, and Marie felt a surge of gratitude and disbelief. Did she really have a whole week of paid leave? It seemed too good to be true. Over the following days, Marie devoted herself to spending quality time with Lucas. They visited the local park, where Lucas could finally play without hurry. They went to the public library, borrowing books to read together every night. Marie even managed to take Lucas to the city zoo, a dream he'd always had, but which they'd never had the time or money to realize. Midweek, following Thomas's advice, Marie scheduled a doctor's appointment. The diagnosis was a wake-up call. Years of strenuous work and neglecting her own health had taken a toll. The doctor found issues with her back, chronic muscle tension, and signs of severe fatigue. He prescribed medication, recommended physical therapy, and emphasized the need for lifestyle changes. Sitting in the doctor's office, hearing the list of her health problems, Marie felt a mix of fear and gratitude. Fear of what might have happened if she'd continued at her current pace. Gratitude for the unexpected intervention that forced her to slow down and take care of herself. At night, after putting Lucas to bed, Marie often found herself thinking about Thomas's mysterious proposal. What could he have in mind? What kind of work could she do at the company besides cleaning? The uncertainty made her anxious, yet also hopeful. However, a nagging feeling crept in. Maybe she didn't deserve all this help. Years of hardship had deeply scarred her self-esteem. Marie wrestled with thoughts that she was just a cleaner, that she had no special skills to offer. "You deserve good things, dear," Claire's voice surprised her one day. The older neighbor had stopped by with a homemade pie. Marie smiled shyly. "Sometimes it's hard to believe that, Claire." "I see the change in you," Claire commented, her wise eyes studying Marie. "You look more rested, more alive, and Lucas is beaming. This time off was the best thing that could have happened for both of you." It was true. Lucas seemed to flourish under his mother's full attention. He laughed more, talked more, and his eyes sparkled in a way Marie hadn't seen in a long time. Seeing him like that made her heart swell and strengthened her resolve to do whatever it took to keep him that happy. As the week drew to a close, Marie prepared mentally for her return to the company and for the mysterious proposal from Thomas. She reviewed her abilities, wondering what she could possibly offer beyond hard work and dedication. On the night before her return, after putting Lucas to bed, Marie sat on their small balcony, staring at the city lights. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a brighter future. A future free from constant worry about overdue bills, one in which she could give Lucas more than mere survival. "Tomorrow is a new beginning," she murmured to herself, a small smile forming on her lips. "And I'm ready for it." With renewed determination, Marie went to sleep, anxious yet hopeful about what the next day would bring. Her week of rest had been more than just physical recuperation. It was a chance to rediscover her inner strength and her ability to dream. Now, it was time to make those dreams reality. On the morning of her return to Laurent Enterprises, Marie woke before her alarm. Nerves consumed her, but they felt different from the constant fear she once knew. This time, there was an undercurrent of anticipation, a sense that something important was about to happen. She dressed carefully, choosing her best outfit, a simple black skirt and a white blouse she saved for special occasions. She brushed her hair meticulously, noticing that the dark circles beneath her eyes had receded significantly. "Mama, you look beautiful," Lucas said, entering the room in his pajamas. Marie smiled, warmth filling her heart. "Thank you, my love. Today is an important day for both of us, remember. You're going to check out your new daycare." After a calm breakfast, mother and son took their usual route to Laurent Enterprises. But today, instead of slipping in through the back door, Marie headed for the main entrance, holding Lucas's hand firmly. The grand lobby, with its marble floors and well-dressed receptionists, was momentarily intimidating. Marie hesitated, feeling out of place. But the memory of Thomas Laurent's kind words encouraged her. "Good morning, how can I help you?" asked one of the receptionists, politely smiling. "Good morning," Marie responded, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Marie Dubois. I have a meeting scheduled with Mr. Laurent." The receptionist's face shifted subtly, surprise and curiosity mixing. "Oh, yes, Ms. Dubois. Mr. Laurent is expecting you. Please take that elevator to the 50th floor." Marie thanked her and headed for the indicated elevator, feeling the curious gazes following her. Lucas, thrilled by the new surroundings, looked around with wide eyes. "Wow, Mom, it's so tall!" he exclaimed as the elevator began to rise. Marie smiled at her son's excitement, while her own stomach churned with nerves. What did Thomas Laurent have in store for her? What if she couldn't meet his expectations? The elevator doors opened on the 50th floor, revealing an elegant corridor. A secretary greeted them with a warm smile. "Miss Dubois, Mr. Laurent is waiting for you. Right this way, please." They were led to a spacious meeting room with large windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Thomas Laurent was already there, smiling as they entered. "Marie, Lucas, it's so good to see you," he greeted them warmly, standing up to welcome them. "How was your week off?" "It was wonderful, Mr. Laurent," Marie replied, feeling some tension melt away at his welcoming manner. "I can't thank you enough." Thomas smiled. "No need to thank me. You both deserved that time together." He turned to Lucas. "And you, young man? Ready to see our daycare center?" Lucas nodded eagerly. Thomas called an assistant who was waiting outside and asked her to take Lucas to explore the corporate daycare. "Don't worry," he reassured Marie, noticing her hesitation. "He'll be in great hands, and you can check on him during your breaks." Once Lucas left, Thomas gestured for Marie to sit. He took a seat across from her. "All right, Marie, I'm sure you're curious about the proposal I mentioned." Marie nodded, her heart racing. "I'll get straight to the point," Thomas began. "I'd like to offer you an administrative position in our human resources department." Marie blinked, convinced she must have heard wrong. "I'm sorry, Mr. Laurent. I think I misunderstood." Thomas smiled kindly. "You understood perfectly, Marie. I'm offering you a position as an administrative assistant in HR. The role comes with full training, a significant pay raise, and all the benefits our administrative employees receive." Marie felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Her mind spun, trying to process what she was hearing. "But I don't have the qualifications for that. I never even finished college." "Marie," Thomas interrupted gently, "qualifications can be gained. What can't be taught is dedication, efficiency, and the ability to overcome adversity. And you have all of those in abundance." He went on to detail the offer. There would be an onboarding period with intensive training. Marie would have a mentor assigned to help her adapt. The salary would be almost double what she currently earned, with the possibility of increases based on performance. I don't know what to say," Marie stammered, feeling overwhelmed. "Say you accept," Thomas replied with an encouraging smile. I know it seems scary right now, but I believe in you, Marie. And I promise you'll have all the support you need. Marie closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. Part of her wanted to refuse, convinced it was too much, that she didn't deserve it. But then she thought of Lucas and how this opportunity could change their lives. I accept, she said at last, her voice trembling slightly. I'll do my best not to let you down, Mr. Laurent. Thomas's smile broadened. I know you won't let me down, Marie. Welcome to your new role. The following days were a whirlwind of new experiences and challenges for Marie. She was introduced to the HR team, received her new ID badge, and was shown to her new workstation, a real desk with a computer, something she had never imagined having. Training began immediately. Marie found herself immersed in a world of spreadsheets, HR management software, and administrative procedures that made her head spin. Each day brought fresh information, new skills to master. Her mentor, a woman named Sandra, she was patient and encouraging, though Marie still often felt overwhelmed. There were moments she questioned whether she had made the right choice, wondering if she was destined to fail. Meanwhile, Lucas adapted surprisingly well to the new daycare. He came home every day bursting with stories about new friends and activities. Seeing her son's happiness soothed Marie whenever self-doubt crept in. Not everything was smooth sailing, though. Marie noticed the looks and whispers from some colleagues who clearly resented her sudden promotion. Remarks like, "She probably just got lucky," or "must know someone important," reached her ears, fueling her own insecurities. Imposter syndrome tormented her constantly. Marie second-guessed every decision, fearing she'd be exposed as a fraud any minute. In the first weeks, she went home exhausted, not just from the work itself, but from the constant effort of proving she belonged. Sensing her struggles, Thomas Laurent decided to step in. He assigned an additional mentor, a senior manager named Robert, known for his patience and skill in developing new talent. "Marie," Robert said in their first meeting, "we all start somewhere. What matters is your willingness to learn and grow. And you have that in spades." With support from Robert and Sandra, Marie gradually gained confidence. She tackled each task with determination, often staying late to practice new computer skills or study company procedures. Her first major opportunity to prove herself came about 2 months after her promotion. The HR department was struggling with its filing system, which had become disorganized over the years. "Marie," Sandra said one day, "I'd like you to take on the project of reorganizing our department's files. It's a challenging task, but I think you have what it takes." Marie's initial fear quickly turned to determination. She dove into the project, spending hours analyzing the current system, researching more efficient methods, and drafting a detailed plan for the overhaul. For weeks, Marie worked tirelessly. She arrived early, stayed late, and often brought work home. Lucas, noticing her effort, offered moral support by sitting next to her while she sorted files, quietly giving her company. Finally, after a month of intense work, Marie presented the new filing system to the department. She was nervous but confident in what she'd done. As she explained the changes and their benefits, she watched her colleagues' eyes widen in surprise, then nod in approval. "Impressive, Marie," remarked the department head after her presentation. "This will save hours of work and make our processes much more efficient." The success of the filing project was a turning point for Marie. Her colleagues began to see her in a new light, recognizing her dedication and skills. The spiteful whispers faded, replaced by genuine requests for help and collaboration. Marie felt she was finally finding her place. There was still much to learn and many challenges ahead, but she was no longer paralyzed by the fear of failing. Each small victory, each new piece of knowledge, bolstered her self-belief. One evening, as she and Lucas headed home, Marie paused to look up at the towering Laurent Enterprises building. She remembered how she used to enter through the back, invisible and exhausted. Now she left through the front doors, still tired, but with a sense of accomplishment. "Mum," Lucas said, tugging on her hand, "are you happy in your new job?" Marie looked at her son, seeing in him the reason behind all her fighting and perseverance. "Yes, my love," she answered, smiling. "I'm very happy." As they walked home, Marie reflected on the incredible journey of the past few months, from desperation to hope, from invisibility to recognition. There was still a long way to go, but for the first time in years, Marie felt she was on the right path. The future, once a constant threat, now gleamed with possibilities. Marie was determined to embrace every one of them, not just for herself, but for the brave boy walking beside her. The boy who had risked everything to give his mother a chance at a better life. That night, as she tucked Lucas into bed, Marie made a silent promise. She would keep fighting, keep learning, keep growing. Because now she knew she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. And with that realization came a sense of peace and purpose she had never felt before. The new beginning Thomas Laurent had offered was not just a new job. It was a new life, a new Marie, and she was ready to embrace it with all the strength she possessed. Marie was in the middle of a departmental meeting when her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket. She ignored it, focusing on her co-worker's presentation about new hiring policies. But by the third consecutive vibration, a chill ran down her spine. Something was wrong. The moment the meeting ended, Marie checked her phone. 3 missed calls and a voicemail, all from Lucas's daycare. Hands shaking, she played the message. "Mrs. Dubois, this is Sophia from the daycare. Please come as soon as possible. There's a man here claiming to be Lucas's father, demanding to see him. We have not allowed him access, Gan, but he's quite agitated. We need you here immediately." Marie's world seemed to collapse. André, after 5 years with no contact, he had shown up in the worst possible way. She rushed to the daycare, her heart pounding. When she arrived, she found André arguing heatedly with security. He looked older, more worn, but still had that arrogant gaze Marie knew too well. "Marie," he exclaimed when he saw her, a crooked grin forming. "Finally decided to show up. I heard you've moved up in the world." Marie felt her blood run cold. "What do you want, André?" "Oh, can't a man want to see his son?" he replied, feigning innocence. "And maybe discuss how you can help me now that you've got such a good job." Marie instantly recognized the veiled threat in his words. André had always been manipulative, and now he saw her as an opportunity for money. "You have no rights over Lucas," Marie said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Go away, André. We have nothing to talk about." André's grin vanished, replaced by a menacing glare. "Yes, I do, Marie, and if you don't want trouble, you'd better cooperate. I know where you work now. I can make your life hell." Before things escalated further, security intervened, escorting André off the premises. Marie, trembling, hugged Lucas, who, thankfully, had been kept away from the commotion. In the following days, Marie lived in constant fear. André began making threatening phone calls, demanding money and warning he would show up at her workplace to expose her true nature. Marie's terror was palpable, affecting both her job performance and her relationship with Lucas. Thomas Laurent soon noticed the change in Marie's behavior. The woman who had blossomed so much in recent months now seemed perpetually on edge and distracted. After observing her for a few days, he decided to intervene. "Marie," he called her after a meeting, "may I speak with you in private?" In Thomas's office, Marie finally broke down. Between sobs, she explained everything about André, his threats, and her fear of losing everything she'd worked so hard for. I think I should quit," she said shakily. "I can't risk him coming here and causing problems. You've all done so much for me." Thomas listened with concern etched on his face. When she finished, he stood and walked to the window, deep in thought. "Marie," he said at last, turning back to her, "you're not going anywhere. We're not going to let an abusive man destroy all you've built." He then offered Marie every form of assistance the company could provide. Corporate lawyers to help her secure a restraining order, additional security at the daycare and the workplace, and even counseling to help her cope with the trauma. Marie was overwhelmed by the offer. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, grateful for the help, but another part, scarred by years of abuse and manipulation, hesitated. "What if this only makes things worse?" she asked, her voice shaking. André might get even angrier. Thomas knelt beside her chair, meeting her gaze. "Marie, you're no longer alone in this fight. You have an entire team on your side now. It's time to face your past head-on. His words touched something deep within Marie. For the first time, she allowed herself to envision a life truly free of Andre and the fear he embodied. With Thomas's support, as well as the company's legal team, Marie began legal proceedings against Andre. It was a difficult, emotionally draining journey. Every hearing, every piece of evidence brought back painful memories Marie had tried to bury. At the same time, Marie began attending therapy. Initially reluctant, she soon discovered how liberating it was to confront her deepest traumas and fears. "You're not that frightened young woman anymore, Marie," her therapist told her in a particularly intense session. "You're a strong woman who's overcome unimaginable adversity. It's time to believe in your own power." As the legal case advanced, Marie felt her confidence grow. Every minor victory in court, every constructive therapy session made her stronger. She began seeing herself not as a victim, but as a survivor. Lucas, kept unaware of the darkest details, sensed his mother's change. "You look stronger, Mom," he remarked one day, hugging her tight. Finally, after months of legal battles, the court granted Marie a comprehensive protection order against Andre. He was forbidden from approaching Marie, Lucas, or any place they frequented, including the company and Lucas's school. The day Marie received the news was bittersweet. There was immense relief, but also a strange sense of finality, as though a long, painful chapter of her life had finally closed. That evening, sipping tea on her small balcony, Marie reflected on her journey since the day Lucas had climbed to Thomas Laurent's office. Her life had transformed in unimaginable ways. She thought of all the people who had supported her: Thomas, with his unshakable faith in her; her team at work, who rallied around her in hard times; her therapist, who helped her rediscover her inner strength. But above all, she thought of Lucas, her son, whose courage and unconditional love had sparked every change. Because of him, she had found not just a new job, but a new self. With Andre finally barred from their lives, Marie felt free to breathe for the first time in years. The future that once loomed as a constant threat now gleamed with possibility. She knew there was still a long road ahead. Healing was a continuous process, and difficult days would come. But now Marie had the tools and the support to face any challenge. "Mom?" came Lucas's sleepy voice from behind her. He stood in the balcony doorway, rubbing his eyes. Marie smiled, opening her arms. Lucas ran into her embrace, nestling against her. "Everything's okay now, right, Mom?" he asked, looking up at her with those big eyes filled with trust. Marie kissed the top of his head, a wave of love and gratitude washing over her. "Yes, my love," she said softly. "It's all okay now, and it will only get better." Holding her son, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance, Marie made another silent promise. She would continue growing, learning, and becoming stronger. Not just for herself, but for the boy in her arms, whose bravery had changed their lives forever. The past, with all its ghosts and anguish, was finally receding into the distance, and Marie was ready to fully embrace the present and future, armed with a newfound courage she never knew she had. 6 months had passed since Marie took on her new role at Laurent Enterprises. The office buzzed with energy that Monday morning as employees greeted one another, heading to their workstations. Marie stepped into the elevator, adjusting the strap of her new leather briefcase, a gift she had bought for herself to celebrate her recent promotion. Arriving on the 50th floor, Marie was met with a wave of congratulations. Her new position as Thomas Laurent's executive assistant filled both her and many of her colleagues with pride, especially those who had witnessed her remarkable journey. "Good morning, Marie," called Sandra, her former mentor and now a close friend. "Ready for your first official day as the boss's right-hand woman?" Marie smiled, a mixture of nerves and excitement fluttering in her stomach. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, heading to her new desk, strategically placed near Thomas's office. While arranging her things, Marie thought back on the past several months. Her transformation had not been purely professional. She felt like a completely different person, from the frightened, insecure woman who'd once entered through the building's back door. Familiar footsteps snapped her out of her reverie. Thomas Laurent approached, his usual warm smile lighting up his features. "Good morning, Marie." "Ready to shake this place up," Marie laughed, still sometimes surprised by how easy their interactions had become. "Always ready, Mr. Laurent." "Thomas," he reminded her gently, as he had for weeks. "We're partners now, remember?" Marie nodded, still getting used to the idea of being on equal footing with the man who had changed her life so drastically. The morning flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Marie coordinated meetings, prepared presentations, and served as the liaison between Thomas and the various departments. Her leadership skills, carefully honed over the past months, shone through as she navigated the complexities of the corporate world. During lunch, Marie made her customary visit to the company daycare to see Lucas. Her heart swelled with pride when she saw her son confidently interacting with other children, a far cry from the shy little boy he used to be. "Mom!" Lucas exclaimed, running to hug her. "Guess what? I got the highest score on my math test." Marie enveloped him in a tight hug, tears of joy threatening to surface. "That's amazing, my love. I'm so proud of you." As they walked hand in hand back to the elevator, Lucas chatted excitedly about his plans for the school science club. Marie felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The opportunity Thomas had given her had changed not only her life, but Lucas's as well. Back at work, Marie immersed herself in her latest project, an initiative to improve the workplace environment and employee well-being. The idea had come from a casual conversation with Thomas, during which Marie expressed her desire to give back in some way after all she had received. "You see this company from a unique perspective, Marie," Thomas had said. "Use it. Show us how we can be better." Inspired, Marie spent weeks researching, interviewing employees at all levels, and developing proposals. Now, at last, she was ready to present her ideas to the board of directors. While preparing her presentation, Marie couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed. Over a year ago, she barely dared to make eye contact with the executives in the hallways. Now, she was about to propose ideas that could shape the company's future. The board meeting was intense. Marie presented her proposals confidently, her passion evident in every word. She talked about mentorship programs, upgrades to the corporate daycare, mental health initiatives, and most importantly, a recognition and development program for employees at all levels, including cleaning and maintenance staff. When she finished, the room fell silent. Marie's heart pounded, afraid she'd overstepped. Then, to her surprise, one of the oldest board members began applauding. Soon everyone in the room joined in, with Thomas beaming proudly at her side. "Marie," the director said, "you've shown us exactly why Thomas was so determined to bring you into this position. Your ideas are not just innovative, they're transformative. You have our full support to implement them." In the weeks that followed, Marie worked tirelessly to bring her plans to life. The project dearest to her heart was an appreciation event for the cleaning crew. She knew better than anyone how invisible their work could feel. The day of the event arrived and Marie was nervous. The company auditorium was filled with employees from every department. As members of the cleaning staff entered, most looking uncomfortable and out of place, Marie felt a lump in her throat. Thomas opened the event with a brief speech, thanking everyone for their hard work and dedication. Then, to many people's surprise, he called Marie to the stage. "Marie Dubois is not just my executive assistant," he said, pride coloring his voice. "She is the heart and soul of this initiative, and there's no one better to talk about the importance of what you do." Marie stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding. Looking out, she recognized familiar faces, people she had once worked alongside. She took a deep breath and began. "A little over a year ago, I was sitting where you are now," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "I knew every inch of this company, not because I was important, but because it was my job to keep it spotless. I felt invisible, or at least that's how it seemed." She paused, noticing how many in the audience nodded in recognition. "But the truth is, you've never been invisible. Every clean hallway, every sanitized restroom, every organized office, these things are vital to the running of this company. You are the foundation on which all our success is built," Marie continued, her voice gaining strength as she spoke about how essential their work was and how the company was now committed to valuing each and every employee. She announced new training programs, opportunities for advancement, and improved working conditions. "This company gave me a second chance," Marie concluded, tears glistening in her eyes. "And now it's our turn to extend that chance to every one of you, because everyone deserves the opportunity to shine, to grow, to change their lives." When Marie finished, the auditorium was silent for a moment, followed by an eruption of applause. Many people were openly crying, moved by her words and by the promise of a brighter future. Thomas returned to the stage, draping an arm around Marie's shoulders in a gesture of support and pride. "Marie has reminded us what truly matters," he said. "That's why I'm delighted to announce that, starting today, we're expanding our benefits to all employees, regardless of position. This includes full health coverage, education assistance, and a profit-sharing program." The room erupted in cheers and shouts of joy. Marie, overwhelmed by emotion, hugged Thomas, tears flowing freely down her face. Later that night, as Marie and Lucas walked home hand in hand, the boy looked at his mother with awe. "You changed everything, Mom," he said simply. Marie smiled, pulling her son close. "No, my love. We changed everything. Together." With the city lights shining around them, Marie reflected on the incredible journey she had taken. From invisible cleaner to an agent of change within the company, her transformation was a testament to the power of perseverance, compassion, and opportunity. And as she walked home with her son, she knew her journey was far from over. In truth, it was just the beginning of a new chapter, one full of possibilities, not just for her and Lucas, but for everyone whose lives she could now touch and transform. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Marie's office, glinting off the gold nameplate on her desk that read, "Marie Dubois, Special Projects Manager." She smiled at the words, still amazed at how much her life had changed in just 1 year. Marie was lost in thought when a soft knock on the door brought her back to the present. It was Sandra, her former mentor and now a dear friend. "Marie, Thomas is asking for you in his office," Sandra said, wearing a mysterious grin. Curious, Marie headed to Thomas's office. Opening the door, she was greeted by an unexpected sight. The room was decorated with balloons and a banner that read, "Happy Transformation Anniversary." Thomas stood there, along with several executives and employees, all smiling broadly. "Surprise!" they exclaimed in unison. Marie stared, her mouth falling open as tears welled in her eyes. "What is all this?" Thomas stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Marie, today marks exactly 1 year since a brave little boy came to this floor asking for a day off for his mother. We thought it was time to celebrate not just your incredible journey, but the impact you've had on all of us." One by one, employees from various departments approached to share how Marie's story had inspired and affected them. Sarah from accounting explained how the mentorship program Marie initiated helped her gain the confidence to pursue a promotion. John from the cleaning team spoke of how the new professional development policies encouraged him to go back to school. Each testimony moved Marie deeply, making her realize the true extent of the changes she had helped set in motion. In the midst of the celebration, the door opened again and Lucas entered, accompanied by his daycare teacher. His eyes went wide at the balloons and the gathering of people. "Mom!" he shouted, running into Marie's arms. Thomas approached them, carrying a box wrapped in colorful paper. "Lucas," he said, kneeling to the boy's eye level, "do you remember the toys you brought a year ago? Well, we saved them, and now we want to give them back to you as a reminder of how special and brave you are." Lucas tore open the box excitedly, discovering his old toys all carefully restored. His eyes glowed when he saw Mr. Buttons, now sporting a new bow and patches where the fabric had worn away. Marie watched, overwhelmed by emotion. She remembered that day vividly, how she thought she was about to lose everything. Now, here she was, surrounded by people who valued her, with a joyful son and a bright future ahead. Thomas cleared his throat, calling everyone to attention. "Marie," he said, "I believe you have a special announcement to make." Marie nodded, drawing a calming breath before addressing the group. "As many of you know, education has always been a passion of mine. That's why I'm proud to announce the launch of the Laurent Enterprises Scholarship Program for employees' children. This program will offer full educational support from elementary school through college. The room erupted in applause and exclamations of joy. Marie saw tears in the eyes of many colleagues, especially those, like her once, who struggled to give their children the best. Thomas then took the floor again. "And that's not all," he said. "Inspired by Marie's impact on our company, we've decided to expand our social initiatives. We'll be launching a mentorship and professional development program in underserved communities, providing opportunities similar to what Marie received here." Marie felt her heart swell with pride and gratitude. She never imagined her story could inspire such significant changes. Suddenly, she noticed a familiar figure in the back of the room. "Claire," she called, surprised and moved to see her former neighbor. The elderly woman walked over, her eyes shining with pride. "I wouldn't miss this for anything, dear," Claire said, enveloping Marie in a warm hug. "Just look at you now. I always knew you were special." With Claire by her side and Lucas in her arms, Marie found herself surrounded by a love and support she once thought she'd never have. Thomas asked if she wanted to say a few words, and though nervous, Marie knew exactly what she wanted to share. "A year ago," she began, her voice wavering with emotion, "I was a scared, exhausted woman with no hope. I thought my life was about making space for others to shine. But thanks to my son's courage and the compassion of a man who looked beyond appearances, I discovered I have my own light too." She paused, scanning the attentive faces around her. "My transformation wasn't just about a job change, it was personal. I learned to believe in myself, to face my fears, and to dream big. Most importantly, I learned no one succeeds alone. We're all part of a vast web of connections, and when we lift each other up, we all rise." Marie closed by thanking everyone in the room for their role in her journey, from her former cleaning co-workers who had supported her in those early days, to the executives who believed in her ideas. When the celebration finally ended, Thomas invited Marie and Lucas to a special dinner. They headed to an upscale restaurant overlooking the city, a place Marie could never have imagined herself just a year ago. Seated at the table, with the city lights twinkling below, Marie watched Lucas excitedly recount his science project to Thomas, who listened intently, asking questions and encouraging the boy. In that moment, watching her happy, confident son and the man who had so profoundly changed their lives, Marie felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude and hope. "A toast," Thomas said, raising his glass, "to new beginnings, second chances, and the transformative power of compassion and opportunity." Marie lifted her own glass, tears of happiness brimming in her eyes. "And to believing in miracles," she added softly, remembering the courage of a small boy who dared to ask for the impossible. As they savored their meal, chatting excitedly about future plans and laughing over shared memories, Marie allowed herself to fully relax for the first time in ages. She gazed out the window at the city that once seemed so hostile, but now glowed with promise. Her life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. From a single mother struggling to get by, she had become a respected leader, capable of making a real difference. The constant fear she once knew was replaced by a serene confidence in herself and in the future. Lucas, her little hero, was thriving, his intelligence and curiosity finally given the space and support they needed. And Thomas, the man who saw potential where others saw only a cleaner, had become not just a mentor, but a dear friend. As the evening wore on, Marie found herself reflecting on her incredible journey. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, every tear shed, it all led to this moment of contentment. "What are you thinking about, Marie?" Thomas asked, noticing her distant gaze. Marie smiled, turning her attention back to the table. "I'm thinking about how life can change so completely in just a year, and how grateful I am for every moment of this journey." Thomas nodded, understanding. "You know, Marie, when that brave little boy walked into my office a year ago, I knew I was witnessing something special, but I never could have predicted the impact you'd have on all of us." Lucas, yes, who had been drawing on a napkin, looked up. "Mommy, you're a hero," he said with the pure honesty of a child. Marie felt her heart swell. "No, my love," she replied gently. "We're heroes, together." As they finished dinner, discussing future plans and reminiscing about all they'd been through, Marie felt a peaceful sense of purpose settle over her. Her life had changed, yes, But more than that, she had found herself. Glancing at Lucas and Thomas, then out at the city lights and the future teeming with possibilities, Marie knew with absolute certainty that this was only the beginning of a life defined by purpose, positive impact, and unconditional love. And so, with gratitude in her heart and hope in her gaze, Marie embraced her new reality, ready for the exciting chapters yet to unfold in her ongoing journey of transformation.